Take it away, Jorge.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, I don't think we met before, but my name is Jorge. I'm the one of the guitar instructors of the School of Rock in Alexandria. And tonight we're going to be talking about how to practice effectively. Um, all right, 1 second. Open my notes and everything. So let's start with some notes that I have in here. Uh, to the practice strategy. So, in order to practice and to develop, sort of improvement every time first of all, we need to set some goals. And what do we want to achieve as a musicians? Um, we need to have a clear vision of why you're practicing. We need to, like I said, find motivation goals. There's songs we want to learn. We want to be professional musicians. We just want to do it for fun. Um, it's uh, it's a long journey, and but it's a beautiful thing. Uh, Also, we need to create a practice schedule. Um, we need to stay disciplined and set up times. I'm gonna go review some of the points, and then we'll just gonna let's see my screen here, and then we're gonna go to a slideshow to show you more on in detail what we're talking about here. Uh, don't over practice. Meaning, find things that you enjoy doing it. Look, for example, find a song that you really want to learn, and then take it pieces by pieces. Don't. If the song has 32 bars, practice the parts that you are not really that has more the difficult parts of the song, and manage your time, pacing yourself, and so you can sustain growth. It's always better to have 8 1 hour practice sessions than having 1 8 hour session per week. So just schedule your time accordingly to what you can do and your availability. Also, incorporate practicality. Practicing techniques, scales, and modes are great, but the most important thing is learning how to use them in a song. So if you want to learn a song that is, let's say, Hotel California, which is basically B minor, and then you learn all the scales and the modes and the parts, techniques behind it, so you can apply that to your own composition. Attack concepts from different angles. If you want to visualize what the guitar neck in a better way, and let's say you play scales or no modes, just up and down vertically, you can start learning by learning playing those scales or phrasing in just one string instead of just playing everything up and down. Same thing for bass players. Well, keyboard players are a little different, but and also always practice slow and gradually speed up. Uh, uh, Take segments, take part of the songs, and when you want to learn it, and play it slow. Don't get all don't get frustrated because it's not coming out super quick. Always the more you play it, the better you're gonna get at it. It just takes time and practice.
Jorge, would you take small breaks between practice sessions?
Yes, the what it takes, what I learned from my experience over the years is let's say you got an hour to practice today. Um, so split it in two parts. Play for 25 minutes. Work on technique. Take a break of 5 minutes, and then work on ear training. Uh, but one thing that I didn't mention, the most important thing before any practice routine is warming up. So take at least 5 to 10 minutes to practice scales, little pieces of music melodies, and just warm up your muscles. If you're a singer, even it's mandatory, so you don't want to injure yourself. All right, one sec. I want to share a little bit of what School of Rock has for us. As uh, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got how to practice effectively. What is practice? Well, the definition of practice. People get confused by practicing and playing. Practice is structured and documented, while playing is just a spontaneous and it's a free form. Uh, practicing promotes musical growth, while only playing something, let's say a song or just jamming out uh, to something that you already know or your favorite lick, it's fun and rewarding, but it's definitely has a different outcome. Practice will make you grow as a musician. Preparing to practice. It's always better to dedicate a place so every day you know where to go to practice. Let's say you have a living room to relax. If you can assign a music room, a practice room, where you are when you remove all distractions, no cell phones, no social media, just if you're gonna be there for 30 minutes or an hour and a half, just remove all distractions. So it's gonna be a lot very beneficial for yourself. Be prepared, make sure you got your instrument, your tuner, your metronome, and your music books. School of Rock app method, it's great. It has already a tuner and a metronome in there for the songs that we assign for students. Avoid interruptions, obviously. Prioritize your assignments. Yes, if you want to work, you have to work on a song because you got a show next week. That's obviously going to be your priority. And then if there's parts of the song that are kind of hard for you to play, always highlight those parts and work on the little pieces slowly until you get it right and then up to speed. Practice tools, like I mentioned before, School of Rock method, the books, and the application tuner. Let's see, there's a metronome in there, drum pads for rudiments, obviously your instrument, keyboard, or whatever you play. A notepad will be always great, so you can keep track of your improvements and the parts that you need to work. Like for myself, if you don't use a notepad, for myself, I got schedules on my phone, on my iPhone, and every day just write down what I did, and if I didn't fulfill a task, I will just do it the next day or the next time that I practice. All right, next part, warming up. Yeah, always take 5 to 10 minutes. If it's gonna be a long session, 15 minutes, and then always take breaks 5 to 10 minutes before, after, let's say, 45 minutes of physical and technical work. Beginning practice. Well, at School of Rock's always assign songs or exercise to our students, so that's a good way to keep track. Always warm up and then start working on the assignments. If you want to learn a song, it's always to know, first of all, listening to the song, and then mapping out the song, and third will be just work slowly on the parts that are harder for you. Chaining. Chaining, it's the idea of breaking parts into little bits. Tackle each part of the song individually, and as you just mark and the sections you want to work on. Once you master that one, move to the next one. Setting goals. Well, it's the most important part of the targeted practice is setting up your goals. Where you wanna, what you wanna accomplish that day or for your session. But the School of Rock, we do have we assign specific goals per lesson or per week to students, and also you need to set up your own goals every time you wanna reach out, learn a song or parts. So every time you set up your personal goals, don't be too ambitious. Meaning, shoot for mainly to improve your accuracy and execution of the song you're working, and then work it slowly up to you get it to the up to the speed that you want. Measuring progress. Like I said before, I use my phone. Use a practice log to track your progress. Track your progress. A simple notebook works just fine. Uh, Find a way to record yourself, even on your phone. And if you got some sort of recording studio will be a lot better. It's always great to listen to your to performances, and it's from there you can fix your mistakes or a little improve your performance definitely. Practice duration. Do not overplay. That's why it's very important to warm up and also take breaks in between. And like I mentioned before, let's say you skip a day of practice. Uh, don't over practice the next day just to try to compensate uh, because the one you miss. Just set up your schedule in a realistic way. Can be 30 minutes a day. Minimum. Would you recommend a minimum of 20 minutes? So anything above 20 minutes will be great. Establish a routine. Yeah, it's key to a successful practice. Definitely scheduling, keeping track, and repetition. It builds muscle memory. The more you do something, the more you're gonna remember, and the better you're gonna get at it. There's a little sample of practice routines. Like as I mentioned before, 20 minutes practice will be the minimum. Mainly 5 minute warm up. If you only got 20 minutes, it will be 5 minute warm up, 5 minute focusing on technique and musical concept, 10 minutes of song learning, and then if you got a little, you can stretch it out to 30 minutes. And then you got 5 minutes of warm up, 10 minutes of focus on technique, 10 minutes of song learning, and 5 minutes playing your favorite song, which is always fun. It's the best part of the practice routine, playing what you really want. 45 minutes practice. You can stretch out at 10 minutes warm up because it's going to be a longer physical session. 10 minutes focusing on technique and musical concept. 15 minutes on song learning, 10 minutes playing your favorite songs. If you got an hour, which is ideal, that's what I try. Like personally, I try to get at least an hour every day. 10 minutes warm up, very important. 20 minutes focusing on technical musical concepts. 20 minutes on song learning, and 10 minutes playing your favorite song. Oh, that's the fun part. Any questions? So we're gonna move to questions and answers or some kind of input. Uh,
Yeah, everyone's unmuted now. I had one question about um, you say music memory,
muscle
muscle
memory,
memory.
muscle
Yeah,
memory.
explain that a little bit more.
It's like playing a sport. The more you do something, the better you're gonna get it. It's just uh, especially learning techniques, scales, ear training. It's just
Yeah, I
repetition.
know. Yeah, I know. For me, I used to be playing a cover band, and we played 40, 50 songs a night. And people say, "How do you remember all that?" And it just you play it so much that it just becomes um, natural.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you really don't have to think about it because you've rehearsed it so much.
Yeah, that's the goal. To when you want to play something, just natural, and it becomes you. You don't even think about it. You just feel it. All
Any other questions? Well, no, as a lot of people don't like to warm up. Part of my warm up routine is, um, of course, rudiments, things like that, but also incorporating um, some of my favorite fills. So as long as they're not too rust or anything, but to help warm up, stretching exercises. Um, and of course, yeah, you have to make it fun, or else you won't want to get to it. And another thing, always end on a strong, happy note. If you end your practice frustrated, um, it's a little harder to get back into it. You're like, oh man, that was all awful. So always try to end on a high note.
This is a great
Right.
point. I never thought about it, but so but sometimes I start practicing for minimum an hour. If I work on like last week, I was working on a Rush song and trying actually was trying to record a song, and it was very difficult, and it took me like 4 hours the first day, and I was just so frustrated. I was like, man, I can't believe I can't play this song. And then the next day, I was super relaxed, and I played it like in the first 30 minutes, and I got it. So, and I don't know, it's just you have to take breaks, you have to relax, and that's what happened last week to me. Rush is fun though.
Yeah, I'll always add a fun song and a challenging song,
Yeah.
like an old standard, like an old. I'm a heavy metal, so I may do an old Metallica, and then for my challenge song, I've been doing some Gojira.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's challenging.
A lot of double bass.
Yeah, and then I always end on something that I love to play. Yeah.
Hey, you get any recommendations? Like, I'm gonna do a couple warm up without an instrument exercise that I learned for guitar players. Maybe it's also for drummers, bass players, anything that uses hands. Uh, Stretch out your fingers. Very gentle. Just massage yourself. Work on your wrist. Stretch a little bit. This is very good. Palm up. Put it this way. And then this one too. Little, check your hair a little bit. Do that slowly. I kind of did it too fast. Do it for a minute, and then also do it at the end of your session. If it's a long session, you definitely got to do a little bit of that. It's just like it's pretty much when you work out and you need to cool down. Um, and you got any drummers tips?
Yeah, I was taught those same stretching exercises. Let's see. But just like a helicopter, a windmill on each hand. Yeah, just twistings, and not like you said, you're warming up, so you don't want to um, overexert yourself. Just like sports players or runners, they don't just take off running. They stretch it out. It's proven science.
Exactly. And for and also metronomes. Those are our best friends. You always gotta use a metronome. Keep in tempo. Scales, songs. If you got a drum machine, if you want to learn a song, drum machines are better. Personally, that's what I think. But to work on scales, one note per beat, two notes per beat, three notes per beat, four beats per beat. Always use a metronome. It will definitely you definitely improve yourself with using a metronome every single time.
You touched on it a little bit about measuring your progress. Set goals. Um, write them down. Write down your goals. Let's say you want to get your rudiments to a certain beat per minute, and right now you can only do it at 60. You want to get to 80. So write that down and document your progress. It's always good to write your goals down, and they um, they're more easily achievable. You can see your progress, and it feels good when you've made progress.
Always. That's what you know. Fun- Sometimes people find it kind of hard to find motivation, but when you set realistic goals and then you achieve them, that's to me is the biggest motivation.
Yeah.
It keeps you going. Metronomes, very good. So we got a bass player and a drummer. Jacob is a drummer, right?
Yep.
Nice.
And the way I'll use metronome too is not just rudiments, but um, just coming up with new beats, funky beats. Go from quarter notes to triplets and back. Um, and especially if you're doing drum fills down the tom toms, be able to come back on beat after a tricky, even a simple drum roll. Um, means the world. And once you start getting other bandmates that typically don't worry about all your flash and all your frilly stuff and real technical. If you can't keep that backbeat, it's gonna be really hard to find a to keep a band together. Um,
I always say I've heard this before, but I always personally say, the most important player in a rock band is the drummer. You're only as good as your drummer. That's pretty much.
yeah,
Steve? How do you cool down? Like, you've been playing for an hour. As a guitar player, start playing. When I want to stop, like the last 10 minutes, I play like slow songs. Very ballads and stuff like that. What do you do when you, as a drummer, you want to slow down and cool down your intense double bass Gojira?
yeah. Typically, like I said, end on a good note. So I'll find an older song that I've been playing for years. And it differs. I have playlist, but yeah, I always try to keep like a little calmer song at the end and something that's you know keeps me in a positive mood afterwards. And then always stay hydrated. Whether you're a guitar player or a singer, drummer, hydration, um, exercising. It all really helps. Good diet. Um, avoid Try to avoid caffeine and a lot of sugars. I mean, I'm not a health expert, but it really makes a big difference being hydrated and in good health.
Don't drink Red Bull and start playing double bass.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
Any more questions?
No. You guys should be able to unmute yourselves. So we have some time. Did you want to talk about band rehearsal? So now you're in a band. You pretty much do the same things. You start with a warm up, kind of get your set list together, and make sure everyone's warmed up. Um, how would you do the same thing in your band rehearsal?
I usually kind of do, what we just went over, even at at the shows. I will always aside 20 minutes prior to actually playing live and do my stretchings on on anywhere like dressing room or whatever we have.
Yeah,
Uh, the stretchings. Grab the guitar, start working on very slow scales. Uh, and then just put it up, for 15 minutes, and then go to start performing. Uh, Same thing applies to rehearsal. So pretty much rehearsing for with a band for me is practicing what you're gonna be. You're gonna mirror that on a stage. You don't want to be improvising too much. I mean, there's always room for improvisation, but to me personally, a good rehearsal with a band is because you're gonna mirror that on the stage. You're not gonna be like hey, what song is next? You need to have set lists. There's dynamics from the first song to the last song. Uh, get ready, practice before that. You know, always have extra strings. Get ready for practice, and same way for a show.
Yes, that brings up a good point. Your practice habits um, roll into your rehearsals and your gigs. So it really sets the tone for all three.
Yeah, I think as a musician, it all comes down full circle. Your personal practice habits, like you said, personal with the band, performance comes back to you. Keep improving. That,
Yeah, one thing I'll add before a gig is people think I'm crazy, but I may walk around the building a couple times just to warm up the legs, kind of get your head clear, get away from all the noise and um, restaurant, bar, whatever you're in. Um, so that tends to help. I've heard of professional drummers and even guitarists and others. They bring mountain bikes with them, so they'll make sure they're mountain biking. They may do a sound check at 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. and then they got the rest of the afternoon free. So they try to use that with exercising um,
that's
and
absolutely
just staying fit.
that's pretty cool. And also, if you get you're nervous of getting stressed because of your thinking or something, that will definitely distract you and relaxes you. Uh,
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Um, the mental side of it. Yeah, you want to be a part of your band and your teammates and your fans and your friends that come to see you. At the same time, you need to be in a really good headspace. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, music it's an art, and you want to share that with your public, with your fans, and you gotta respect that.
Yeah.
So you do it for yourself at the beginning, and then you just want to share that with the public.
Right.
That's good.
And then another point, this is especially for gigs, but before you practice, I'll check my snares engaged, all my stands are set up correctly, my drum pedal is clamped to the bass drum, because if you start playing midway through a song, oh, my stick is chipped up or my pedal is crooked. Really hard to change that mid song. So, what do you do on like guitar and your amp? How do you prepare your equipment?
Oh, okay, yeah. What I do is always myself. What I do is before every single gig, even if I usually play like once or twice a week, it's still if I play Friday, Saturday afternoon before going driving to the next gig, I will check my amp, hear any noises, check cables. Cables are very important because if you're in the middle of the song, because it happened to me before, you break a cable and then you start going. You only got a few seconds, and every second you're gonna feel like hours. That is passing. It's only the same song, but you just like going crazy, trying to figure it out if it's your main cable, the cable, the patches between the pedals, or the cable that goes into the amp. And it happened to me that before it was just the little cable between the amp and the speaker. Oh, anyway, so just double check. Uh, I do always take a couple guitars. If you don't have two guitars, take extra strings, and like when band that I had, we had a song because it happened before. We had a song where it mainly was just keyboards and bass, meaning if I ever break a string, they will jump and start playing that song, and I have 3 minutes to switch strings because there was a show that was in a different state, and we all carry our equipment in a van, so I didn't have space to bring two amps or two guitars, any of that. So, and I broke a string. So what we did is they started playing the song that it was just bass and keyboards and a lot of improvisation singing. So it gave me a couple of minutes to change the strings. So always pack a couple extra sets of strings, or if you can, just bring two guitars. Um, Always check your equipment before actually playing live.
Yeah, I'll bring extra sticks. Drum pedals have springs. Those go bad after over time. Check each drum for tuning, and I'll walk around the drum set and check all the cymbal stand, all the lug nuts. Um,
Okay.
you never want to tighten them too much. Um, but yeah, same with practice. So that should be a practice routine, rehearsal routine, and of course that'll get your mind set to always do that at a show.
So definitely, because there's always the part where you get a little nervous because of there's or too many people or there's not enough people or anything, but you are at least in the back of your mind you're like, you know what, I'm cool because I got, my amp is fine, my gear is fine, my two guitars are set up. At least I got that backup. Like I'm not gonna be worried about it. I'm just gonna worry about performing. So made a habit of yourself uh, to just be prepared for every show and for every practice as well. When you're going to practice with other musicians. Um, Two of the things that I see in drummers go through a lot: snares and the bass pedal. How do you prepare that? You bring an extra snare or?
If possible, have an extra snare. I have the luxury of having extra pedals. But yeah, the snare drum. If you lose a snare drum, that's like your core of your whole set. Bass drum pedals, like I'll have a spare. But yes, snares are really big. Um, and even your throne, if you have to use somebody else's throne or yours is tilting or not quite right, if your center of gravity's off, it throws everything off.
And how about bass drums? The pedal.
Yeah, pedal, I just bring a whole set, but it's probably good to have extra springs, extra beaters. Yeah, yeah. So, um, not sure about keyboardists. I guess they would need keyboards. Very, very important. I've seen this, and it's awful to witness. But if your keyboard stand isn't secure, that thing just falls to the ground. Um, so yeah, for keyboard, you want to make sure your stand is secure at the right height. And they probably want to bring extra cables, depending on the keyboard, a direct box.
Yeah, direct box or adapter. I've seen people players break their adapters a little connection, and that's it.
Yeah,
Can't play anymore. Um, mic cables very important because they break very easily, and everybody's stepping on those mic cables. So for singers, always carrying extra mic cable.
yeah, and bring your own mic, especially nowadays.
Exactly.
So I've got a new topic. We can jump back to this if anyone has questions. But School Rock's starting to get into songwriting. Um, so during your home practice, how might you come up with? Let's say you come up with a new lick. How might you remember that? Would you record it or write it down? Um, because a song normally comes from just rehearsing. Wow, that was a cool beat. I need to remember that so I can write a song.
I I will always record it immediately on my phone, and then listen to it later. And if it was a cool riff, I will actually repeat it and put it on my little studio. But
Okay.
always phones. That's the easiest way to record some sort of sound or music.
Yeah, so we should add a recording device to your practice routine. 'Cause you never know what you might come up with. And it's good to go back and listen to yourself. You may think, wow, that's a great beat. You go back and listen to it and it's not quite right.
Yeah,
Or you may come up with a guitar lick, record it, go back and listen. Oh, that's the Alice in Chains riff. Oops.
yeah.
Um,
What's funny? You say that because that's how I actually label the riffs on my phone. I got the Black Sabbath riff, the Dream Theater riff, whatever, and then I put them all together and change a little bit so it doesn't sound so much like them.
yeah.
It usually comes up when I'm practicing. I'm like doing the scales; it has nothing to do with it. And then on my break, I will just start improvising, and if it's cool, I will just record it and write a song around it. Uh,
Yeah.
what usually happens. And always record yourself. That's very, very important.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing with drums. Record it. Sometimes write it out. There's some apps online that help you write drum beats. Fairly simple drum beats. Of course, music theory comes into play to be able to write down your riffs.
Especially go to those like difficult passages that sometimes we all come up with it. It's hard to remember, even if you record it, if we just like it has a weird scale or whatever, it's a little difficult in the ear. So always write it down and record yourself. Uh, Practice time is precious, and remember, you are always better off mastering one thing than touching on a bunch of different subjects. So when you practice, set up your goals, master that one thing that you really want. Even if it's slow, but master it. Instead of playing.
Thank you all for attending. Well,
Thank you very much.
thank you.